The purpose of this video is to show how I made my internal threader. I needed to cut some internal threads to make a nut that I wanted to put on the back of my spindle. And yes, it has a nut, but I'm going to try to attach the a divider head so I will know what position this spindle is in if I need to cut more gears. So I have showed how I made this little divider, and I was going to just buy one until I priced them, and I had to go to plan B. They're looking proud of those things. So anyway, I made this one, and it was really quite easy to do, and I just hope maybe it would help somebody else, because it was not a very difficult job whatsoever. Thanks. This is going to be my internal threading bar. This is my homemade milling bit holder. I have a store-bought one, Chinese, and it appears to be a Chinese piece of you-know-what. I put it in and it wobbles. And no matter how I rotated it or whatever I did, it seemed to have that same wobble to it. So I took it back out and I used my milling bit holder that I had made, which is simply a threaded piece of 1-inch cold rolled steel with my router nut. Cut at a taper on the inside so that it compresses the chuck here. And I don't have the wobble on mine, so oh well, I guess I'm going to use mine instead of the store-bought one. But I'm cutting a 1/4-inch slot here. That's a little big for my little bar that I have that I'm going to insert here, but it's the smallest one I can use since I'm kind of limited with my router chuck. I can either mill a 1/4 or half. I may get a set of bits that's made with 1/2-inch shanks on them, so I can just have a whole set that will be usable in my holder. I think my holder is probably going to end up being better than whatever Chinese holder I buy anyway. So I have milled a slot. I'm just going to set it in there and put a couple of set screws in the bottom to press up against it and to hold it tight and not extend any, and probably round off the back side of this bar somewhat to make it as small as possible. And that's my plan for now. I completed my little boring bar. I'm trying to get to where the camera might pick up something, but I've got a horrible camera. I'm looking around to buy one if I can find something that's affordable that might focus a little bit better. But this boring bar, I cut the slot in the bottom, put a couple of little 832 set screws in the bottom to hold the cutting tool, cut the little square bar off, and try to round a little bit on this square stock, which is actually a piece of 1/2-inch key stock. All I can do now is to try to line it up on center and see if I can cut some internal threads. Alright, using 2 parallels, and I know now this is not going to work with one hand. But anyway, using 2 3/4 parallels, I'm going to hold them in there just like that, and I'm going to take the other hand and put the little piece that I'm working on in there. Okay? This is the end product. This is the nut that I was making to thread on the inside, the screw on my spindle, and it is probably just about as perfect as I was going to get it. And again, threads never show up on my lathe, but it was not as easy to get it here as first impressions might lead. I took it off about 4 times to try it since I have no nut that size with that thread. But I thought about it before I took it off, and I did one thing. Since I used the parallel back here and place it back into the jaw, I don't know if you can see it, but I placed a little index mark with a pencil in the center of my jaw, and I placed a little index mark on my nut, so that when I put it back in here, I'm back in the same place, so my threads are not twisted one way or the other, and I go back into the same thread when I engage my half nut. Might seem a little bit bizarre, but it did work. So now I have a nut to go onto my spindle. I have to be a little careful. This is aluminum. It will cross thread pretty easy, but threads are good. I did not cut metric threads. I cut 20 threads per inch, and I kind of believe that this might be metric, but for the 3 or 4 threads that I'm really using, I don't think it really matters. 20 thread gauge matches up perfect with this thread here, and that's what I use. So I didn't have to go to metric. So let's see. Well, to my eyes, the threads show up pretty good here, but with this camera, no, it ain't gonna happen. There's no getting up close with this camera. No focusing. Oh well. But anyway, that's how I've cut my nut. And if you're wondering why in the world do I need a nut to screw onto my spindle, since it's already locked down, it already has a device there. And if I can find it, I'm going to okay, this is my divider wheel. This one's been divided up into 40 sections. I drew it up on SketchUp and printed it on my printer. And I'm going to place it on here. I'm going to run it through my planer, make it thinner. It doesn't have to be this big. This is a 1/4 inch plywood that I mounted it on. That's 1/4 inch Chinese plywood, which is a little less than 1/4. I'm going to put it on here and then put the nut on to hold it, and then make a little indicator bar that will point to the little indicator. Now I don't need 40 threads per inch, because I found out that with this 40 right here, all I had to do was lock it in each tooth, and I had 40. It's its own indicator. But for any other tooth configuration, I need a indicator somewhere to lock it in for each tooth. So this will be my way of putting my indicator. At least that's my plan for now. Because I'm really not too fond of the way I cut the last gear. I mean, it worked. I got a good gear, but it was an awful lot of work. Ramming this thing back and forth and back and forth, a lot of time per gear. And cutting out a very small amount. You can't cut out large amounts. I'm still going to probably look, see if I can come up with something else. So until next time, Multicraftsman out.